nice.
Same old theme song. Ooh.
Oh, like you've changed it.
Live from the Founders Diamond Mine in Botswana, where all diamonds are worth 50 votes per share. It's an all-new, terrific Tuesday edition of Business Fans, joined by Analyst-Hole Matt Moscardi. Woo!
I'm a founder. I don't get 50 votes per share.
On today's chocolate-filled summary compensation table called October 22nd, 2024, it's a double quiz Tuesday featuring a heartbreakingly mediocre ESG News Quiz and a relatively thoughtful data drop quiz. Did I get that right?
Well, let's say...
Was I accurate? Was I honest?
When you say relatively...
Relative to my quiz, I mean.
Yeah, relative to what is always the question.
Our show today is being sponsored by freeflowanalytics.com, the only platform measuring board power, connections, and performance for free. You know, it's interesting, Matt. There were reports about the role that Tim Cook played in the CEO at Nike, and I immediately went to our data to see, well, what is freeflowanalytics.com? They must have known something about his perceived influence there. And while the problem is that the Knight family controls the bulk of the influence, Tim Cook is certainly listed as a major player, so it's no surprise to our data that he's heavily involved.
But can we say the amazing part about it is, like at the highest possible level, the news stories seem shocked that Tim Cook is on the board of Nike.
Yeah, well,
right?
they don't listen to us. They don't
it.
look at our data. I mean, for any investment firm, any activist investor, anyone who's an investor who's not using our data is crazy. Because and I know that Nike is obvious, Tim Cook is obvious, but if you want to know who to target, who to reach out to, if you really do want to make have big changes or swap out a director, you really should start with our influencer percentages because they're pretty goddamn accurate.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Saying. And frankly, if you're like on the bus and you're sitting next to a guy who's talking to himself and you see his like badge from his company, you should look in the data and see if he's a director somewhere because that might be something.
Do you think that director rides the bus? That's nice. I like that world.
Yeah, that's what directors do, don't they? They all ride the bus.
All right, ready for a quiz?
We're doing two quizzes.
I know.
Here's you want the intense game show music?
I don't care.
Like let's
Oddly,
build up
I don't
some
care.
Suspense here.
I know it's against my normal character, but ooh. Oh yeah, this is like a Halloween. I like this Halloween, but it's not a Halloween themed quiz. Although the first subject maybe this is the appropriate music for my first subject.
All right, well, hit me with it.
This is lingering from a report that came out a week or two ago. But I wanted to include this in the quiz because we never fully got to the heart of it. So let's start here. There was a report that claims that Roblx is what? Roblox, the kids gaming platform. A big research report coming out claiming that Roblox is what?
The report came out from Hindenburg.
Hindenburg Research.
I know this because last night, my wife and I go to dance, and the dance instructor was like, "My kids play Roblox;
Oh, no.
They love it." And I was like, "It's a pedophile hellscape. Just take them off."
Absolutely correct.
That's what it's about. They
called it a
great.
pedophile hellscape. That's horrible.
Hellscape.
Horrible.
Well, look, if you are like, I'll say this. If you want to go on a kid's game and name yourself Jeffrey Epstein, you shouldn't go on Roblox because already 600 variations of that have been taken. You can't get that name.
This is frightening.
So find another one.
Hindenburg Research usually says things like, they're exaggerating growth in emerging markets. But this time they're just calling the company a pedophile hellscape. I mean, that's...
Yeah.
All right, let's stick with Roblox for a few of our quiz questions.
Oh, do we have to?
Yeah.
Because that makes me uncomfortable.
I got a bunch. Okay. Bonus question 1. You already got the first one right. What percentage of influence, according to freeflowanalytics.com, is held by women on the Roblox board? The aggregate influence held by women on the Roblox board.
So this is tricky because I do know
you know
the
too much,
brothers
don't you?
Baszucki own.
You know too much.
They run this board. So the leftover is probably like 25%, and then the women, there's probably like 2 of them. I'm going to say aggregate 5%.
Wow, hit another winning answer.
Is that it?
Matt,
That's
you know
it?
the data at your own company. There are only 2 women, the same amount as the Baszucki brothers who run the company, and they control 5% of influence. I would suggest if you want to change the fact that this company is a pedophile hellscape, just start by adding more powerful women to your board. I would just start there.
That just seems like a simple
start
place
there.
to start. Yeah.
Bonus question 2. You already hinted at this. What percentage of influence is held by the brothers named Baszucki, the Baszucki brothers?
I think it's like 74%. 74?
You're right in that it's completely overwhelming, but actually it's 87%. That's
What?
even higher than
I'm
normal.
giving myself a buzzer. That's not great.
That's not great.
87%.
Not great, indeed.
So I will say this. How big is the Roblx board? It's got to be, 7 people, 8 people? It is rare when you see a board of 7 or more where 1 to 2 people own that much influence.
Yep.
Even Mark Zuckerberg, who has total control over his board, the estimate in the free float data is only 7% or something of influence.
They must be appointing lightweights.
Like the
Controllable
Baszucki
dopes.
brothers must literally have every single committee chair role, and I don't know what anybody else is doing there. Should we call the company Roblx, or should we call it Baszucki Inc.?
Maybe that would push
would be
parents
better.
to get their kids not to play. They don't want to play the brothers Baszucki game, right? Or whatever they're Baszucki.
Well, they do sound a little bit like a video
That's
game
true, that's
character, so it's probably not great.
Bonus question
more.
3. CEO and co-founder David Baszucki undemocratically controls the pedophilic landscape known as Roblox because his Class B shares are magically worth what? What are they worth magically? Are they worth
Well, I'm just okay. I don't actually know,
bunnies, or what are they worth?
Are they worth 3 Morningstar Globes? I'm gonna go with. You gave the answer away with the diamond mine in Botswana.
Maybe
I'm going
I
to say
did.
50 shares, 50 votes per share.
I finally outwitted Matt, because right before the show, I did have that. I realized that the joke in my opening copy did match an answer, so I changed it the last second.
Oh no!
This is how long we've been working together, and how creepily we think alike. But I changed it right before the show. It's actually 20 votes per share. It's 20.
Oh, that's what I would have
But you're
guessed.
right to realize that I almost stupidly gave it away.
I thought you were tricking me with your own copy.
All right, let's move on. Roblox's 2024 proxy statement cites that they have a trust and safety advisory board. This is in their proxy statement, comprised of world-renowned digital safety authorities. The company invites shareholders and stakeholders to learn more about each of our safety advisory board members at a website, corp.roblox.blah, blah, blah, blah. Well, actually, it's corp.roblox.com/parents.
Oh,
How condescending is that? Yeah, /parents. So here's bonus question 4. Yes or no? Does Roblox list the names and qualifications of the members of its Trust and Safety Advisory Board at that website or anywhere in any of its SEC filings or anywhere else on its corporate website or anywhere else in the world, including the back of a Chipotle napkin? Anywhere. Do they list these people anywhere? Anywhere in the world?
Here's the problem.
Yeah.
Your animation gave away the fact that they do not.
These quizzes have a purpose. We're trying to educate our audiences about things. Yeah.
Even Zuckerberg's oversight board has
they do a great job.
lengthy biographies for every single person on it. The thing they don't tell you is that Zuckerberg hand chose them and pays them all, right?
a lot of money,
and then doesn't pay them anymore because he doesn't want to, and they're but this
sadly, Matt,
sounds not the case.
Yeah, you're right. The answer is no, and I checked for hours. I mean, that's just creepy. It's creepy to lead people to nowhere, to cite it and then have it be a big zero. It's creepy to me.
I mean, it may be more honest though, because they're basically just saying it's the Baszucki brothers.
Well,
it's not like that. Don't look anywhere else. There is no board.
And let me tell you a little bit more about the board at Roblox. So they have a nominating and corporate governance committee, which is tasked with overseeing Roblox's initiatives related to trust and safety. And I just wanted to tell you quickly about these committee members to show you how this board is really constructed. There are 3 committee members. One of them is Anthony Lee, who has been on the board since before Obama was president. He's been there forever.
Oh, okay.
And he works at a VC firm called Altos Ventures Management that, quote, invests in founders. So you can see whose side he's on.
I'm not sure anyone was ever like, you know who our paragon of safety is? A VC guy.
And how about this? Another committee member is Andrea Wong. She serves on 3 other boards.
On a lot of things.
She serves on 3 other boards. All of them controlled by a single man. Media company Liberty Media, controlled by John Malone. Karate Retail, also controlled by billionaire Q-Rate John Malone. And Hudson Pacific Properties, controlled by Victor Coleman. She only sits on boards in complete control by a single man.
Well,
so she's easy to push around, right? And then finally,
she knows the deal.
There's Christopher Carvalho, who owns so many options. They're worth millions of dollars, and they're worth millions of dollars because the exercise price on his options is only 6 cents.
Wow.
6 cents. So he's easy to control too, right? I mean, he's not going to call anything out. He's not going to question.
Well, look, if you're a pedophile hellscape, then it's possible the shares might only be worth 6 cents. So that might not work in his favor.
Let's hope so. I don't really have a question there, but do you, do you like that? Do you like that committee? Yes or no?
No,
okay,
I don't.
That's the right answer.
I don't. I win. Wait, I get that right? Okay, I get that right.
Let's wrap up Roblx by talking a little bit about their executive pay. But before we do that,
this is only question 1 on your 40-page quiz.
I like to be verbose.
Jeez.
According to the company's 2024 proxy statement, how many of Roblox's 5 named executive officers are women?
It's a software company. I mean, and it
It's
involves children.
It's a jaded answer.
0.
Yeah.
So
You're
0.
right. Unfortunately, it's jaded and correct. And then finally, over the past 3 years, has founder and CEO and chair and majority voting power guy David Baszucki, has he averaged more than or less than $50 million a year? Has he averaged more than or less than $50 million a year for his pay?
Usually, when this is the situation, when you got like the dual class, when you're like the founder, when you got your VC bros on the board, all that kind of stuff, you don't pay yourself much. You give yourself like $1,000 a year or $10,000 a year. You don't give yourself anything in summary comp. Everything is the options that you have because you own all of the stuff. So I'm going to say that depending on what you're talking about, he either gets $10,000 a year or more than $50 million.
Interesting. Okay. What's the answer? What are you saying? What is your answer?
I'm saying that like, well, I don't know which one you're referring to. So both could be true.
Okay. Well, let's just the real answer is he makes greater than an average of $50 million a year. He makes about $80 million a year.
And it's from the options, right? Is it all from the options?
Yeah, it's a lot of options. Mostly.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm
it's
correct.
It's good that he's paying himself and owning most of the company. It's just good.
I don't care as long as I'm correct.
I just want people to understand what's going over at Roblx in case you have children, in case you're an investor, in case you care about anything.
Read the Hindenburg report. It is
scathing,
horrifying. It's horrifying.
Speaking of horrifying, let's move over to a recent research report from Russell Reynolds. This just came out a couple days ago, I think, called Gender Diversity in the C-Suite, Women's Representation in the 2024 S&P 100. So,
100.
Just to put the collective power of the S&P 100 into perspective, do you know, any guess what the total market cap of the entire S&P 100 is? Just so you know.
It's got to be... Yeah, it's got to be like 20 trillion.
That's good enough of an ad. It's $34 trillion. I just want you to understand.
I'm close. Yeah, it's a lot.
And the S&P 500 in itself is 46 trillion. So the S&P 100 is really, I mean, they run the world now, basically.
It's the thing. Yeah.
All right, so here we go. In 2022, women held 12.2% of the roughly 15,000 C-suite positions across all publicly traded U.S. firms. At the end of 2023, what was this percentage? So it was 12.2%, which is really low, unfortunately. But so what progress have we made in the last year?
I'm going to say the progress, like the headline about Japanese women on boards, has been really spectacular 12.3%. That's what I'm going to guess.
You're close, but you're wrong, because the heart of the matter here is that it's actually going down. It's 11.8%.
What?
We're actually
No,
going
no.
backwards, which I find it hard to believe. I don't know. I don't know if this is part of the anti-DEI, anti-ESG movement that's been happening the last year or so.
Look, if you're an investor and you have a proxy, right? Like you have a vote. We know at the S&P 100, they have some of the most diverse boards now in the world at the S&P 100.
Boards.
There tend to be 40% women on boards, sometimes more.
We're talking about C-suite, yeah.
You often see 50-50. But if you cannot translate as an investor that the ask for the board to be diverse, to roll downhill, the board's job is to oversee the C-suite. Clearly, the board and the C-suite are disconnected entirely if you have a demand for diversity you're making at the board level, but it is not translating. In fact, it is regressing at the C-suite level.
How?
That means
How?
that think about the implication of that. The implication is the board actually is not they are not emphasizing, they are not executing any control over management, because investors have given boards a mandate that they must be diverse. Many investors will vote against nominating chairs for boards that have less than 30% gender diversity on them, right? Which means if that's all you're doing, you're not actually taking any next step to say, does the board oversee management? Are they doing the absolute bare minimum that we ask them to do, and then ignoring their fiduciary duty to oversee management entirely?
This is why, if you care about diversity, and this, this is my favorite data point that we cover. We have something called the gender influence gap, right? If you care about this at all, you should be looking at the gender influence gap on freeflowanalytics.com, because this might be the single most important data that we offer, if this is an area of your coverage. Because it's one thing to have the bodies on the board, but if they have no power, this is what's happening.
But what we're seeing that the confusing and scary part is it's like a board influence gap, as in management probably is controlling the vast, and I mean like 90+% of the influence of these companies. The boards are nothing burger because investors are not forcing. The only time you see an investor change management through the board is when they take an activist stake. But if you're seeing data that suggests you care about diversity, there's plenty of diversity on this board, but the diversity is not translating to diversity in the C-suite, then the board is not doing its primary function, which is to oversee the C-suite, to execute a strategy and oversight at that level.
I think what Matt is saying, and what I'm constantly saying is, I think it's been 20 years. I think we should move beyond the very plain metric of the percentage of women on the boards, right?
Stop counting.
It's a great look. It's important, but there are a lot of other things to count now, including our very own gender influence gap. Let's get on to our next question in our quiz for October 22nd,
I don't
2024.
like that question.
I know. I'm sorry.
It makes me unhappy.
Okay, so we're looking at Russell Reynolds' report. They looked specifically at about 1,500 executives at the 100 largest S&P 500 companies, the S&P 100. So out of all the S&P 100 organizations, all of them, how many of them have achieved gender parity on their senior leadership teams?
Oh, geez.
Gender parity. And I credit Russell Reynolds here because this is something that we look at a lot on this show. We look at the entire leadership teams as stated by the companies, not just
board plus
not just the named executive officers, but everybody. So how many of these 100 have reached gender parity? Okay, well,
0.
I mean, you're basically right, but you're being a little bit cynical. It's 6. It's 6.
Oh,
but think about it.
That seems high.
6.
That seems high.
It's sad to me that you think that seems high.
It does seem high, though, doesn't it? Like,
no, I don't want to say that. I don't want to think that. I don't want to say that.
No, but think of like S&P 100 companies we talk about basically daily. We read every news story about them. Can you think of a single one
we've seen
that has?
Look, they don't come around that
parity?
often, even boards. I mean, we've noticed a few recently in the utility sector. We talk about them in some industries like retail. Elf Beauty, for instance, have reached gender parity. But there are more than that. There aren't many. You're right. Look,
There's just not that many. Yeah.
Okay, but of those six companies that have achieved parity, can you name one notable feature that 5 of these 6 companies share? Like, what is it about these companies? And I know it's a small sample size.
No, I'm guessing they're either like some sort of cosmetic or fashion. Like
it's not industry based.
Right?
It's not industry based. Yeah, it's not.
It's not. Oh, no. I'm wrong. No, I don't like that. I don't like being wrong.
The answer is that they're essentially they're well-established companies that they were founded over 50 years ago, which basically is saying that these all the trends you see in social activism, all these things, they don't seem to be appealing to newly founded tech companies, I guess, is really what this is implying, right?
Oh, okay.
But just new companies in general. I don't know. It's not really saying much because it's such a small sample size, but I just wanted to point that out. It does seem
very small. Yeah, it does seem small.
Moving on, what percentage of S&P 100 companies have leadership teams consisting of at least 2/3 men? 2/3, at least 2/3.
Well, you said it was 6% or parity. Oh, this is just leadership. This is full leadership teams, right?
Yeah, this is leadership teams. Remember, this is 2/3, not parity, but 2/3. At least 2/3.
So I'm going to go with 94%.
Again, you're being I can see where you're going. That's the 6 represented parity, so that's 50%.
Yeah, I know. I'm saying basically anybody who doesn't have parity is just at least 2/3.
Well,
men, right?
You're wrong, but this number is still way too high. It's 70%, and that leads me to the next question: what percentage of the S&P 100 has women with at least 2/3 women? At least 2/3.
So it has to be the rest. I'm gonna do,
no.
What 20%?
No. This is just companies where at least 2/3 of the leadership team is men, and this is at least 2/3 are women. So for women, no, you're wrong. It's 0. None have reached that
zero.
level.
Oh,
I'm gonna fire the quiz writer. Maybe he.
Yeah, this was very confusing.
Let me move on.
I don't like any of these.
I'm out of this section. Let's get to easy stuff here. Name the top 3 executive roles in the C-suite held by women. Let's get back to basics here.
Okay, all right.
The top 3.
Now we're talking.
Yeah.
Now we're talking. Human resources.
Yes.
Legal.
Yes.
And marketing.
Yes. Hit yourself the bell.
Yes, that's correct.
Proving that all of our anecdotal evidence that we talk about on the show is actually accurate. So anyone who listens to us should know right now that everything we say is true and valid. Everything.
That's correct. We've never said anything wrong.
So you, as an extra credit, you want to try to guess the percentages of these roles held by women? What percentage of head of human resources are women? What do you think?
Oh, it's got to be more than 80%. I'd say 84%.
Close enough. It's 72%. I mean, isn't that crazy? How about marketing and chief legal, roughly?
Marketing is going to be lower, and it's going to be like 63% or something.
They're both close. They're both in the 40%.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and that brings me to this. Name the bottom 2 executive roles held by women. The bottom 2 in the C-suite. Bottom 2.
Oh, COO.
Yes.
And CEO.
Yes, unfortunately.
Yeah,
what do you think those percentages are?
It's like 5 and it'll be like 11 and 5%.
So for CEO it's 9%, for COO it's 8%. I don't know if this reflects. I don't know if CVS is actually in the Fortune 100. I think they are. This number is going to skydive, right? Because Karen Lynch was one of the few CEOs.
But like this is the glass ceiling inside the glass ceiling, right? Because like the move to CEO is often from COO. That's almost always what it is.
You wonderfully segue to the next question, and I'll quickly do it, and I'm going to let you keep talking. According to this report, what's another name for the COO role? What do they call it? What's a nickname for it in the industry?
Isn't it president or
I'll give you a wrong answer. It's called CEO in waiting. That's what they call it. So this is a problem, right? The COO, women in COO roles is actually less than CEOs. They finally found some data point that's worse somehow. But it's
finally, they had to look real hard.
According to research, 43% of CEOs in the Fortune 250 were promoted from the COO position. So they're very carefully figuring out how to prevent women from getting promoted. I don't like this quiz. Okay. Let's get off of this report.
It makes me unhappy.
It's a good report. I'll refer to it again. It comes from Russell Reynolds, called Gender Diversity in the C-Suite. So check it out if you want to. Let's move on. I have a few more remaining questions from the news. HSBC has this incredible restructuring, man. I don't know if you heard about this.
I did.
This is a big, confusing restructuring, including a whole new geographic setup. They're going to have all these new geographic operations, Western markets, Middle East, is blah, blah, blah. All this crazy stuff. They're also going to consolidate operations into 4 new business units. There's so much being redone and restructured at HSBC. So now would be the perfect time to announce what? What has HSBC done for the first time in its 159-year history?
They have named a Glass Cliff CFO who's a woman.
Exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's a Glass
first time.
Woman.
What a great moment, right? This sounds really like a lot, right? I mean, this is her name is Pam Cower, by the way. That's good luck with all that, Pam. That's it's a recipe for disaster.
Has anybody been set up to fail more acutely? And the CFO role than
not only are they reorganizing from geographically, but also the business units are changing. That's just too much at once. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
All right,
it's not a great role.
Here's a super duper bonus question. I love this. CNBC released a 615-word article called HSBC embarks on major restructuring, names first female CFO, right? A 615-word article. How many words before the article actually names
Oh, wow.
the HSBC's first female CFO? Remember, the title says names first female CFO. How many words before?
Oh, wow.
615 words.
This is
counted, yes.
This is the best question you've come up with today. There's no better
615
question.
words. How many words before they actually named the woman? I mean,
it should have been 3. It
yeah,
should have
right?
been
First
HSBC
sentence.
announced
Yes.
so and so.
And it could have been.
Right?
I could be trying to trick you. It could be.
No, you're not trying to trick me. It's 412.
Give yourself a victory. It's 562.
Oh,
Right at the end.
562.
Right at the end. I mean, giving this woman no credit despite the fanfare of this article. And how about this for a part 2 question? How many words before the article names the male CEO?
Oh, it's in the third. It's
Yes.
it's got to be the
50.
fourth word.
It's like
right?
the third sentence. Yeah, 50.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is like I got nothing to say. You know how much I love parsing out these business news articles.
What I love is when you count words in an article.
I love to count words. Well, this is the sort of the hidden subconscious subtext of this whole world that we live in, right? Like they know what they're doing. There's something sort of crafty and subconscious about it all. But let's move on. Let me end my quiz. I know you hate when my quizzes go on for 17 hours. So I'm going to wrap it up on this. HBO has a hit show called Industry. I don't know if you've heard of it. It takes place at a fictional 150-year-old Goldman Sachs-esque investment bank in London. I think they call it Pierpont. And in this season, the company had a near total Lehman Brothers-esque financial collapse, right? You're with me so far?
Yeah.
So my question to you is, what exactly led to the company's near total collapse, according to the HBO show Industry? What was it?
So they're not going to do like mortgages because that's been done, and there's lots of movies about that. I'm going to go with something woke, a climate catastrophe.
Yes. Well, give yourself a victory. It's not quite that. It's actually even dumber than that. It's because the bank borrowed too much money to buy stakes in do-gooding companies in an attempt to pivot to ESG.
Oh,
they
really?
They put it entirely on the back of its woke need to pivot to ESG. And it's quite fun if you're in the ESG industry, it's actually quite a fun show to watch because this season is full of ESG rhetoric and yeah, it's great. It's great.
It's got to be all wrong.
Yeah, it's all wrong, but it's a lot of fun to watch. I recommend it. It's a lot of fun.
I can't watch that. It's so infuriating to me. It's like watching like when my wife was in medical school, like she watched Grey's Anatomy and it was like, what is this? This is nothing like what medicine is like. I can't do that. I can't do the finance version of that.
The reason why I selected this is there was a Wall Street Journal article about the show, and it says how basically everyone in the industry loves loves the show, but it's all full shit. Everything
Yeah,
about
it's
it is
all so
completely
fucking pointless.
No one can follow any of the narratives. They don't mean anything. But that's it. That's
all
my
right.
quiz. What do you got?
I'm going to give you, I got a shorter quiz than you.
Thank God. Thank
Equally
God.
as boring, though. All right.
Oh, how
Here
dare you.
is the headline I saw. Activist Jana builds Lamb Weston
Jana.
steak, pushes for possible sales.
Not a woman named Jana, I'm
Investment.
guessing.
No. This Jana
Where are
investment.
the women?
or Jana?
And, I'm thinking about this. Are there ever women involved with these high profile activist investor stories? Is it always old men looking for like their egos to be
No.
splashed across the pages?
No. It's sometimes young men who are like their egos to be
Thank
splashed.
you. Yeah.
Jana Investments, they bought 5% of Lamb Weston. They upped their stake from 1%
What is Lamb
or
Weston? Remind me what
2%.
Lamb Weston is again?
Lamb Weston is French fries.
Oh yeah,
It's
right. We talked about
potatoes.
this. Yeah, potatoes.
In fact, my favorite quote.
Yeah.
Lamb Weston spun off from ConAgra about 7 years ago. My favorite quote from the spinoff was when the current CEO, Tom Werner, said, "quote Lamb Weston is well positioned to continue to drive growth and capture share in the global frozen potato market." I just like the idea
Frozen
that there is
potato
a
market.
global
Yeah.
frozen potato market as opposed to the unfrozen potato market. I just like that idea.
Do they
It's
grow
just-
right there in the freezers? Is that how it works?
I don't know how it works. I'm not a frozen potato grower.
potato market.
I don't grow frozen potatoes. But Jana Investments took a 5% stake. The stock is up like 10% on the news.
Oh, really?
And they want to see from the company a strategic review of their capital spending, their operating deficiencies, and their share repurchase strategy. Basically, they want the company to either pay them more money or stop sucking quite so much. Here are my questions.
Yeah.
What percentage of the board at a frozen potato company has economics knowledge, according to Free Flow? That's MBAs, degrees in econ or accounting, or they're acting CFO or something like that.
I'll take the easy way out here, and I would think that you just need one. I mean, I don't know can you at least tell me how big the board is? Do you know off the top of your head?
Sure, it's 11 people, including the CEO.
So I'd say a maximum of 2 people.
Okay.
But so that's like,
that
I would say
is
roughly
incredibly
10,
wrong.
okay, roughly 8%.
8 out of the 11. 8 out of the 11 have a background in.
Yeah.
There
Are they
there
from
are
the same?
two.
Are they from the same dorm? They all come from the same dorm? I don't understand this.
There are 2 accountants on the board. The rest of them are econ majors
Wow.
and MBAs. 72%
Econ
of the board.
majors. Econ majors.
72% of the board
Yeah.
just got an econ degree
What?
and then now are overseeing frozen potatoes.
What was the subject of their thesis? That people like potatoes or something? Or
It was not. It was
Yeah.
not. They did not do a thesis in the incremental valuation of potatoes. They did not do that.
That's sad.
So
That's
that's the follow-up question
Yeah.
then. The follow-up question here is what percentage of the board, according to Free Flow data and their bios, do they have food production in their background?
Well, this reminds me of Ronald Reagan, who called ketchup a vegetable. So I don't know, like, is a French fry food? I don't even know. Is that considered food?
well, look, it's the closest thing we have to understand it. Yeah.
Look, I would hope. I would hope it's at least a quarter of the board. It seems important. I would think a quarter of the board.
I'm going to give this to you.
Okay.
It is 20% of the board
All right.
when you exclude the CEO.
Well, that sounds reasonable, right? Or no?
Yeah, kind of.
Well, we don't
here's
really.
the thing.
Here's the thing: is that we have all this data, but we don't really have a way of saying what's right or wrong, right? I mean,
Well, according to the data, when you do the data at scale, according to our data, it says 45% of the board has, food production. But when you read the bios and you get actually deeper into it, you realize lawyer at Krispy Kreme
Yeah, it doesn't count.
is food production.
doesn't
So when you exclude it, when you
Yeah.
do a slightly deeper dive, because you see that disconnect and you're
Yeah.
like, how bad is that disconnect? You realize that 3-year stint as Arby's CEO does not count as food production.
well, they do have curly
And-
fries, though.
And that leaves just the CEO, Tom Werner,
Yeah.
Andre Hawau, who both came from ConAgra, were
Yeah.
part of the spinoff and came from ConAgra, and Robert Cavello, from Bunge and Cargill. He has food production experience. So there's the CEO and then 2 independent directors.
It seems like you could swap out a couple economics majors for people maybe who actually understand.
Yeah, that's not your worst. That's not your worst suggestion, which we'll come back to because Jana has some suggestions too. All right, are you ready for how many directors of this fried potato, this frozen potato market company?
Well, they're not fried, Matt.
No, that's right. They're
you
pre-fried.
have to fry them. They don't do the frying for you. That would be.
They're pre-fried.
They would need like 19 economics majors to figure out how to fry a potato.
That's true. Yeah. They need a much bigger board for that. How many of them have a background in addictive products? Now, I'm using that term loosely.
As someone who used to be younger and didn't have a lot of money and saw how addictive French fries were to most
good.
people.
It's my vice.
I know where you're going with this. I'm going to guess it's high, right? I mean, this is basically a drug. I mean, this isn't real
drug
food.
Delivery system.
This is like Coke to me. This is like Taco Bell. This is like Instagram, right? So I don't know, half the board.
45%. Give yourself a round of applause.
I might agree with that.
Good.
I might agree with that because I don't really get how you market this, how you market French fries, other than the fact.
Well, here are the drugs.
Yeah, appeal to your addiction.
Here's the drug background. Yeah. Benson was at McDonald's. Blixt was at Krispy Kreme.
Okay.
Hello was at Pepsi before ConAgra.
Sure.
Model Mug was at Arby's and Sharp was at Pepsi.
Yeah.
So they were
Why
you
so
were
much
spot
Pepsi?
on exactly
Why so much
half.
Pepsi? Yeah.
A lot of Pepsi.
Yeah.
Like if you want a board seat, you should work at Pepsi, become the VP of something there, and you're pretty much guaranteed a board seat. All right, what am I on? Number 4. Number 4 of my 6 questions. So only a couple more here. How many directors are connected through boards or companies in common?
Well, where's this company based?
This company's based in Idaho, I believe.
I was gonna say, if it's not based in New York, or if it's not East Coast or West Coast, what we've found is that basically everyone's connected because that's the way the middle of our country works. So I'll just
this is true.
I'll call it at least 2/3 is my guess.
It's 45%.
Okay,
5 out of the 11. It's
close.
about half the board. But here's the kicker.
Yeah.
I mentioned before that only 20% of the board has food production experience, right? And one of those people was Andre Hawau he's at ConAgra.
Yeah.
Hawau is the one who's connected to all of the other board members.
Oh.
He's connected to Niblock and Benson. He's connected to Sharp through Pepsi and Werner, the CEO, through ConAgra. So he is connected to half of the board just through other boards and prior experience at companies, meaning if you want to consolidate power, is there a better way to consolidate power than having you and the CEO be the only 2 people who actually know how to grow a frozen potato?
I think Morningstar, or maybe it's Vanguard, I'm not sure, but they refer to this as Group French Fry Think. Is that what they call this?
Yeah. Group Fry Think.
Group Fry Think.
I believe that's correct. All right, and there's actually 2 more now. I got
I'm starting
my
to get
count
into
wrong.
this quiz now.
Who, given what you know about this company in this board, can you name the director? Just guess. You wouldn't be able to name them because you don't know the names of them, right? But just guess the director who is the least liked by investors.
By what metric?
By what they either their role on the board or some piece of their background,
by voting.
like their knowledge by voting, by their vote.
Well,
who's least liked?
I'm gonna guess it's someone involved in food production. It's someone with knowledge that matters. That's my guess.
I'm gonna say that is incorrect. It is the lawyer at Krispy Kreme. That's who they like the least.
How am I supposed to get that one? What are you doing to me here?
Because he's the head of the comp committee, and he's the head of the compensation.
How was I supposed
committee.
to guess this?
This is like you just pick a head
of
committee,
you make
right?
me look stupid in front of our audience of 2.
Think like ISS and Glass Lewis. He was the head of the comp committee in the year that the CEO Werner was paid $20.3 million of summary comp. But the following year, when they actually announced how much he took home, he took home $40 million selling frozen potatoes.
Wow.
And the vote against this head of comp, because it was so egregious, was a team low 96% for. That was the team low.
Wow.
This is a company that is an activist investor because they underperformed. The team low was 96% for the guy. That was the worst vote. That was the worst. All right, your last question, and this gets back to something you could guess. What kind of creative new director, if you're Jana, investor,
exactly.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
What kind of directors are being considered now to add to this board? You got a 5% stake?
Well,
who are you? What's your top number one person that you're adding to this board?
Honestly, I haven't done a full breakdown of their skills. That's where I would start. If I was Jana, I would reach out to us and I would get the full breakdown of the skill sets and how they influence, how the power breaks down, just so I could see who to target and what who has what. But as we've alluded to, this is a drug company, right? Because nobody needs French fries. It's an addiction, right? I'm sorry, but. So I would actually think, I don't know if, believe it or not, I would think marketing, right? Because isn't this all just about figuring out how to sell shit to people that they don't need?
Okay. Well, so this isn't, most of what they do is not retail.
Oh.
Most of what they do is like they sell to McDonald's as their biggest buyer, right? Like, so they're selling to restaurants. So
sorry, I could be wrong.
Okay. So I'm going to say you're absolutely wrong because they know one executive. They're considering some others, but they know one executive they want to bring in, and that is a man named Tim McLevish, who is the former executive chair of Lamb Weston.
Oh.
In fact,
so they're just bringing somebody old back.
Has deep experience in corporate finance with 72% of the other directors. This is not a joke. That is their first choice.
I've realized that the
experienced finance
there's only two people that activist investors know. They only know two types of people. They either know that their sons, right? They know their children. That's one person they like to nominate to boards.
They maybe know them.
Or they know former failed executives or board members at that company. That's all they know, because that seems to be the only people they nominate, right?
That's who they call.
Yeah, that's who they call.
That's all we got.
Come on, Jana, reach out to us.
Yeah, seriously, that's all we got. That is Hazelnut Rollist. I'm your Analyst-Hole Matt Moscardi. We are Free Float. If you like this, we're not going to be back on Thursday this week. We're going to be back for a double on Friday.
Wait, aren't we doing Lamb Weston on the big vote? Or we're doing Lamb something?
No, we have Lamb Research.
Oh, that's not the same company?
Lamb Research. Different companies. Totally different companies.
Both delicious, though.
Both. One is delicious chip-making, application company, and the other one is...
Oh, they're both chips. They're both in the chips.
Hey, I don't do puns. That's all we got. Come back for more. Until then, good.